everyone doing this morning?
Great.
Excellent. Well, my name is Melissa Nell, and I am the manager of the volunteer, thank you, Marsh, because I would have forgotten that, the Volunteer and Education Division of Manatee County's Natural Resources Department. And today, I'm going to talk to you about the Little Free Library project that we recently started in Manatee County. Before I start, though, I just want to thank Moran again and the CAC for putting this together. And for those of you that may not know, all three NEPs, the Tampa Bay, Sarasota, and Charlotte Harbor, we have the honor of working with all three of them, and they do so much. So the grants that Liz was talking about, really make use of them. They've been wonderful partners for us, and you really can do a lot with what they offer. So I'm going to start. Before we even go any further, I need to acknowledge the fact that this is not my project. And that is so exciting for me, because this project came from one of our new college interns, who sadly could not be here today because he's in France studying sustainable farming. Right, so in his honor, I'm presenting this. Nick Sheffer was one of our interns from last year, and each of our interns has to do a final project in order to kind of leave a lasting impression on the county. Hopefully a good one, and in this case it was. And he decided that he had heard of this thing called Little Free Libraries. He was inspired by the creators Rick Brooks and Todd Bowl, both from Wisconsin, and their idea was to create more of these small, free public library boxes that Andrew Carnegie did for public libraries, which is a pretty big, tall, kind of lofty goal. But they're getting pretty close to that. It was entirely intern designed and county funded. And don't worry, I'm going to kind of walk you through pretty much everything you need to know in order to put these in your public lands or your house, because you can do that too, your front lawn, or partner. And the best part about this project was it really only took him 2 months from developing the project proposal all the way to purchasing the libraries, acquiring them, and installing them. So we did them on a really quick time frame. All of our interns, they do have to do that project, and so what Nick did was he created a proposal. It included everything from the budget all the way through to making it sustainable. So that was kind of his part, and then the give back to not just us but to you all was putting together a project that could be shared. So the goals were pretty simple. The main goal was to introduce the Little Free Libraries in Manatee County. I'm just curious, have any of you heard of this project? Oh, yay. Oh, okay, so just this half of the two people over here. I got you over there. Yeah, okay. So you guys just hang on. So those of you over here who've never heard of this program, it's really neat. Basically what they are, it can be a box, most of them look like little houses, but we have some really neat ones to show you. And they're small, kind of enclosed spaces that are weatherproof that hold books. And the books are free. And nobody in my department thought this was going to work. I will totally admit we were all skeptical of it. And the first question we all asked was, aren't they going to steal the books? And the answer is, yeah, that's kind of how this works. Because what happens is, the idea is to take a book and leave a book. And we'll get into a little bit when we talk about the lessons learned, how well that works. But the main goal was to introduce it. Nick planned to do 2 in the county. And we really wanted to use this as a way for people to recycle their books. We also wanted to promote literacy and reading for all different generations. So we made sure that they were stocked with books appropriate to all age levels. And then some of the other things that are a little bit harder to quantify was to build a sense of community and kind of foster the intention of reading in nature. So those were our goals. We'll talk a little bit about the metrics on those. But as far as the budget goes, I was excited because this was a pretty cheap project. Usually when my interns hear that they have a $1,000 budget to do whatever project they want, they go a little crazy. And they come back to me with wanting to buy all sorts of exciting things. But Nick kind of priced the whole thing out. And he decided that the best way for us to take the approach to this project was to purchase 2 ready-made Little Free Libraries. And we were able to get each one for $250 each. So a total of about $50. The shipping kind of killed us. I think it was $50, but we were able to work with the company and get them both shipped for $50, which was great. The registration, I'll talk a little bit more about this. This is vital. You really want to make sure that your Little Free Library is registered because that's going to help you market them. And then included in this budget are the things that we used in order to mount them. So one of ours is mounted on a post, and then one of ours is mounted on a building. So we had to kind of accord for all that. The budget can be adjusted up or down. Again, ours were prefabricated, so if you decide that you want to do something exciting, I've seen these, and we've got some images coming up in a moment where the libraries are, 2 stories. Some of them are recreations of Victorian mansions. I've seen frogs, I've seen chickens, I've seen boats. So whatever you decide to do, that's going to influence your budget. But you can even do these for as little as $100. They have kits that you can buy that include everything but the plexiglass for the door that run right around, I think, $100. So we were excited. We were able to do the 2 for right around approximately $676. So again, our internships are set up, our interns are paid, and when we created that program, we really did want them to have a lasting impact, so they have a small budget for a project. So we did make Nick, though, try to find some additional funding sources because we wanted him to sort of think through that whole process of, okay, what would happen if you didn't have our money to fund you? So he came up with a couple of ideas, and he did go after some of these to see what was viable. And one of the best ones is some of your local small businesses, places like Home Depot, even Target, some of the larger corporate businesses. They have grants, and they also have projects where they will donate materials. Some of the small businesses too, like in Manatee County, we have a couple of local small lumber stores. They will also foot the bill for that too, if it's, because like ours used, I think, 1 post and I think 10 screws. So they're happy to donate that if you give them a little bit of some kind of acknowledgement. The other thing too is grants, of course, like the National Estuary Programs. And I'll even tell you how we sort of accidentally completely tied ours into Charlotte Harbor without even trying. And then we also pursued some different ideas for grants from the Florida Literacy Council. So those are all different options. This is kind of the big one right now, though. I'm just curious, how many of you all have ever heard of Kickstarter or GoFundMe? Okay, right now, as of 2 days ago, Kickstarter had, I think it had 14 different Little Free Library projects on it, and all of them were funded, except for one that was asking for $5,000. So what Kickstarter and GoFundMe are, they are crowdfunding. And that is essentially another fundraising option where you post your project online for the whole world to see, and there's really no risk involved. If your project doesn't get funded, nothing happens. But if it does get funded, you get the money, and the only thing you have to do is give back whatever you decide your reward levels are going to be. Now, do I think that Manatee County could do this? Oh, no way. But some of you all are nonprofits, and this might be an option that's available to you. What I found most exciting was, and it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but both of the projects here were funded well over what they initially wanted. So for instance, one girl asked for $500 and she got funded up to $2,000. So she was able to buy 2 extra libraries. And that is kind of the trend with the Little Free Libraries that are going out on the crowdfunding right now. A couple of tips for you, if you do decide to go this route, is definitely make sure your project's manageable. The one that isn't getting funded right now they want to install 12 boxes, and they are asking for around $5,000. That's a lot for people to tackle. But most of the projects, they run between $175 on the really low end up to $600 or $700 on the high end, and pretty much all of those are getting funded. So it's very exciting that people are really all over the world are kind of buying into this project and want to see it happen. Another important thing to know about crowdfunding, because I've used it for projects outside of work, is you do have to provide people with rewards, and you do have to follow up. If your people don't get their rewards, they get kind of antsy, and you start getting emails like, hey, it's been 6 months, where's that sticker you promised me? So it's always something you want to kind of keep in your budget, is that if you're going to put it out there like this, you are going to have some rewards. People do everything from stickers to mugs. A lot of the Little Free Libraries do, like, they say, like, well, we'll put your name on the library for a certain amount of money. So there's a lot, and the best thing about this is once the projects are funded, they still stay up there. So you can go to past projects and get ideas on how you can set them up for the future. So, yeah. So, you can pick your favorite. I think mine is the frog type looking one. The one at the bottom that's super plain, that's ours. Yeah, I know, right? But again, we chose that because it was easy, it came prefabricated, and it's kind of hard to tell, but it's all made out of recycled materials. So we felt like that was a really nice fit for our preserves. One of the things that we challenged Nick with was it's really great that you want to do a project on recycling and literacy, but we need you to figure out how that fits into the preserves. That was really, really key for us because as neat of a project as this was, we wanted to make sure it had that environmental tie-in. And that was one of the best ways to do it. Our little free libraries are made from recycled materials. It talks about that. All of the marketing we've done for that, we've been able to talk about that, and all of the programming as well. So when we did this project, these photos were not available, which in retrospect, I think that might have affected us a little bit. Maybe it was a good thing because we were able to crank it out really fast. I kind of think that if these were available, it would not have taken 2 months. It would have taken much longer. But the Little Free Library website is fantastic, and there's a whole gallery. They have a whole Flickr page of different options, so there's lots of different ideas. And you can build these yourself. If you watch the picture, it's going to cycle through some of the different things. On the Little Free Library website, they have the plans for this one right here. These came downloaded from the site. They tell you all the materials you need, and they also give you the actual specs for them. And there are also websites like Instructables where people have posted their particular take on it with all of the plans as well. So if you happen to have a volunteer that is fantastic at carpentry, or maybe you want to partner with, like say for us here in Sarasota County and Manatee County, Ringling School of Art and Design, you can get some really exciting creative things happening. Again, for our part, we kind of wanted to keep them uniform, so we just went with purchasing the prefab, but you can get really creative on this. We also had a little bit of a time crunch because we had to spend money before our budget ran out, so that was the most practical for us. But I would strongly encourage you, if you are excited about this program, I'll be around for a little while, and then Aiden, who's one of our fabulous educators, he can answer questions too. I'm going to send everyone this PowerPoint, and it has all the notes, and then I also have a handout of resources for you too, and I'll send it to Moran, and it'll come out. But really, if you have creative volunteers or high school or something that you can partner with, I encourage it. The only downside of that is you have to figure out a way to be able to say no. Because when you get like the crazy design that you know is not going to be structurally sound, you have to kind of have in your back pocket that way of saying, well, here's the 10 designs that were submitted, and we're going to take this one as opposed to the other ones. And that's kind of the other reason we decided to go with the prefab. So the biggest goal of the Little Free Libraries in general is that they need to follow the idea of take one, leave one. And that's when that whole fear of aren't people going to steal the books comes in. That's the #1 question when you say to someone, I'm going to put a box out there and put a bunch of books in it. And people say, well, aren't people going to vandalize it, damage it? We have strange things happen on our preserves. People set strange things on fire. We have just, things you'd expect like vandalism and graffiti, but I didn't know that people could lift a picnic table that was chained down and toss it into a lake, but they can. So we were really concerned about what would happen to these cute little boxes. So that was one concern. I'm happy to report nothing. People respect them. It's amazing. We haven't had any problems at all. And the other thing too is that take one, leave one. Yeah, no, not everybody does that. But there is a balance. So we have one person will take one and they may not have one to leave one, but then we have volunteers coming in and they're like, well, my kid just went through high school and read these books, doesn't need them anymore. The other day we had someone drop off 20 books that were like the required reading in Manatee County. So now we've got, Tess of the D'Urbervilles and Scarlet Letter and all these crazy books in there. So it's really exciting. You can have specific strategies if you're really worried about maintaining your library and really, nervous about the books. We kind of were, because we weren't sure how it was going to work. So we entered into a partnership with our library system. But you can host book drives. We did that through an educational program. I'll talk more about that in a second. And you can also ask for donations from booksellers and authors. And here's your shameless plug for the Charlotte Harbor National Estuary Program's kids book. Because Moran sent a box of these to us, and we've been stocking our little free library with them. Not, 20 at a time, but we'll stick a few out there, and they always disappear, which is kind of exciting. For marketing and promotion, we use social media all the time. We now, unfortunately, have, 8 Facebook pages? Yeah. Unfortunately, we have 8 Facebook pages. And before anybody thinks, why would you need 8 Facebook pages? It's because people check into every single one of our preserves. And if we don't capture that, people make their own pages. So we had to make the official page for Robinson Preserve and Emerson Point. But it benefited us because we're able to cross-promote. So instead of just having these posted on the Manatee County Natural Resources page, we're also able to post them to the Robinson Preserve page and the Emerson Point page where they're located. So this is a posting on the left-hand side off of the Robinson Preserve page. In 15 minutes, it had 46 people like it, 3 shares, and 20-something comments. And most of them were positive. There were 1 or 2 that were well, that's where I'm going to put all my adult material collection, and which was resoundingly met with, you're a really horrible person. And then that comment got deleted, not by us. So that's the cool thing about Facebooks, the social media. There's kind of some police that are out there in your community, the people that love you, that will take care of that. The other thing at the bottom here, this is so neat. The Little Free Library System has created a Google Map, and that registration fee I mentioned earlier, I think it's $30. You can put your library on there. You only pay 1 time. You get it registered with that $30. Absolutely key. I had a woman email me and she said, I'm coming down from New Jersey and I'm going to Anna Maria Island and I wanted to see if there were any Little Free Libraries, and you have 2. Can I meet you? And I went, sure. So I wound up talking to a woman who wanted to put Little Free Libraries in New Jersey for a migrant worker program. So it's amazing how these things get connected, and I never thought that their Google Map would do that for us, but it did. So pretty exciting thing, and definitely something that that you want to put out there. We also did the usual things like press releases. We have a newsletter that goes out to about 2,000 people, so we put it on there as well, and all that kind of your usual marketing stuff. But those were kind of the 2 unique things we did. The big thing for us, again, was that nature connection. As important as literacy is, it's kind of sometimes hard to convince our ranger staff that that's something that we need in the preserves. And again, there was a really, strong fear of putting out these boxes and making sure that they weren't going to get destroyed. So we decided to really try to kind of impart a nature theme to them. So when we started, we stocked them with nature-oriented books. And kudos to the folks in the library system, because we told them what we wanted, and 3 boxes appeared with nature-oriented books. They're fantastic. We always go through them first and pillage out what we think will work for our programs. That's kind of the perk of having that partnership. And then we put them in there. We encourage people, if they're doing the Take One, Leave One, to leave a nature book, but they don't have to. And we also tie in our environmental education programs when we can to those libraries. We also we're planning, we haven't done it yet, but we're planning on hosting reading clubs or doing a Book of the Month club where people can either bring in a nature-themed book that they really like, or everyone can read the same one and meet there at the library to share it. We do restock ours occasionally. We've found that as time has gone on, we have not had to do it as often. And anytime we restock it, we do it with the nature-themed books. So as far as that environmental education programming goes, one of Nick's other kind of assignments for this was to create a program, and he did a 2-hour-long program that focused around the book A Day in the Salt Marsh, which if you haven't seen it and you have a salt marsh in your preserve or near you, I strongly recommend it. It's the neatest book, it's beautifully illustrated, and it goes through each hour in the salt marsh and what happens. And this is part of the, just a couple of the little activities that he did. That's Nick sitting down reading the kids the book. And then after that, we played a food web game where the kids built the salt marsh with the puppets. And Aiden's brought a puppet in to demonstrate, I guess. I'm not really sure how that puppet made its way in here, but that's kind of how we roll. You never know where we'll appear with the puppet. We also had a nutrient game to sort of explain the way nutrients work. And then he took them on, to tie in reading and literacy, he took them on an alphabet nature hike. So they hiked through the preserve and looked for different things that matched up different letters, and everybody had like big letters that they matched. After that, we returned to where the Little Free Library is located, and the kids got to feed the library. I've never seen kids more excited about books than they were when they got to feed the Little Free Library. And what we did was we asked each family that came to bring a book, and we told them, you're not going to get it back, you gotta give it. And I was shocked because these families, one family brought 3 bags of books. The library was so stuffed, we couldn't put anything else in it. We had to like ask their permission and say, like, can we take some of these to the other library? I mean, it was amazing. And the kids lined up, and each one was, you know, put a book in and took it out. Before they did that, though, we had book plates that the Little Free Library creates. They're up here on the right. And it's so neat because it just says, blank recommends this book because blank. So in this photo, after he read the book, Nick sat down with them, and each kid sat with their parent, and they put their name in the book, first name only, and then at the bottom they wrote why they liked the book, and they put the sticker in there, and then they put the books in the library. And what was so neat was everybody got to take a book from the library too, so a lot of the kids got the books that the other kids had just put in, which is really exciting. And then they all shared, and oh, it was really, really neat. I should also say that we gave everybody one of these too, which was really kind of a nice thing too. So everybody got 2 books. So they got the Charlotte Harbor book and then the one they picked out for themselves as well. We've had this program, we've done it at Robinson. We're going to do it at Emerson too. We have to pick a different book though, because we have a little bit of a different habitat there. But it was a really great way to tie that in. And we found I think we had 20 kids and 10 adults attend. And that was just another way for us to market it as well. The Little Free Library resources are fantastic. So if you do consider doing this, I encourage you to check their website often because they're always adding more. Initially, they didn't have any of this stuff, but now they have a gallery, they have the downloadable book plates. The thing at the bottom is a book label that you can put in. And again, it's always a gift, never for sale. So it's really wonderful resources on their site. With the lessons learned, our big thing was it can work. And it works really well. And you got to have a little bit of that trust, but if you trust the people that are coming into your preserves and the people that are going to use these, they will use them and they will care for it. We learned that it's really good to set up those partnerships in advance. Again, what we've done with the libraries has been wonderful, and I'll talk more about that in just a second, but pre and post marketing are absolutely key. When we put the first one in, we didn't do that much marketing. People didn't really know what it was, but we did a little bit more when we put the second one in, and it worked out really well. You also really want to plan out the sites. The photo is our ranger at Emerson Point trying to, it took quite a bit of trial and error to figure out exactly where that box was going to go, because we had a general idea, but we know next time for sure we definitely will plan that out a little bit more carefully. And you can put landscaping. Some of the Kickstarter projects even have a bench right next to it where you can sit and read. So you can really turn it into this whole place for reading out in nature. And this is a big thing. Metrics are difficult to gather. So if you do it as a grant, you need to really think about that in advance. For us, we use our Facebook posts as metrics. We also sent a survey out to everybody that participated in the program to ask them how they liked it. And you could, in theory, have someone stand by your Little Free Library and survey people as they come up. But it's difficult to gauge, whether or not it's building a sense of community and things like that. The successes, again, so far, a year and a half later, the boxes have not been vandalized, they're well stocked, and they're unharmed. That library partnership, it went from them giving us books that they get donated that they can't really use, to us setting up a whole slew of programming in the Manatee County Library System. We're in a library probably twice a month. And that's great for us because it's an outreach program that we normally wouldn't have been able to have. And during the summer, when traditionally our numbers are much, much lower in terms of the people we can reach, we just hang out at the libraries. And our programs at the libraries, they average 60 to 100 people. So it's great because we're able to bring environmental education to groups that might not necessarily get it. The feedback is very positive. This was actually so positive that we were able to get funding to put one out at Jiggs Landing, and that one's going to be up in the next month. And we've had contact from, like I mentioned, the lady that wanted to bring it to the migrant workers, also from different homeowners associations to install the boxes. And the last thing, 2 weeks ago, our deputy county administrator contacted me and said, hey, I saw that little free library thing. Can you meet with me on that? And so we went out, and now Manatee County is creating 50 of them to give away to different nonprofits and place throughout the county. So to me, that's a huge success. We would not have had this program if it had not been for Nick. Aiden and I are the 2 full-time people. That's the other thing, too. We have 2 full-time people, 1 part-time people, and 2 great interns. And the interns do so much for us. They come up with so many things. So I encourage you to, reach out, make those partnerships, connect, and see what you can get. We did not stage this photo. That's the craziest thing. I went up to take a photo, and I was like, show me which books. I'm like, really? You happen to have the Charlotte Harper book? Okay. So I was like, it's kismet. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, okay. Yeah. No, Nick is from Florida, I believe. Yeah. He was really key. He was really plugged into a lot of sustainable and recycling type programs. And actually Dan, who is getting ready to sit right next to you, is another one of our interns. And that's also from New College, and he is as well. So it's just something that we've been working with interns now for 7 years. And it's interesting to see kind of their shifting focus. And this is something that I've seen a lot of, recycling and sustainable-oriented mindsets coming through. So, yeah. Oh, apparently, if you ask a question, you get a bag. So, yes.
What do you think is the viability of using one as a geocache site?
So it turns out we're also the people who created the first geocache tour in Florida. We're the ones with help from the Charlotte Harbor National Literacy Program, Sarasota Bay, and Tampa Bay. Here's the thing about that. I think it would be great. The only problem you're going to run into is geocachers aren't always gentle with things. So we found that out. So I think I think it's a great way to tie the 2 things together. And I think it would definitely drive visitation. The only thing you might run into is they're not going to have books with them. And I don't know if I said that, but that was one thing that we encountered was a lot of people coming to the preserves weren't, going on their run, didn't necessarily have a book with them. But again, it does balance out, because I'm sure you have lots of volunteers. We have tons, and they tend to bring in, massive quantities of books. But I think it's definitely a great idea. Your other challenge would be making sure that there are no geocaches nearby, because you have to have 528 feet in between. But yeah, good question. Anything else? Oh, yes?
Did you ever find anything questionable that had been put into them?
Not a single thing. Yeah, and my boss was all for this, but he was really worried. He's like, well, what if somebody puts like a magazine in there? I'm like, it's fine, I mean, we haven't ever seen anything, because our rangers had this whole list of things, most of which I can't repeat in a public conference, of things they were really worried. No, it's amazing. People are really, really respectful for it. And you know what we did do, though? We made sure one of ours is attached to our visitor center and the other one is within view of it. So I think that helps, too. If we were putting these out on the trail in the middle of nowhere, you might have some problems with it. Anybody? Yes?
So you're taking adult books also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that was one thing that we had to, I don't want to say train people, but we had to we had to help people learn that we did do kids books and adult books, and it could be anything. Because for a while, people kept asking, well, I don't have any nature books. And we told them that's okay. And we've seen, really nice, everything from really nice copies of Harry Potter all the way through, Cliff Notes, and we leave them in there because somebody can use them. Nick actually got a textbook that he needed for class. It was, so Universe was like, here you go. You did a good thing. All right, I think I might.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you guys. I may have to take off, but Aiden will be here to answer any questions. And again, Aiden, he has the dolphin puppet. Yeah, so, and then again, the handout I'm going to send you has links to all of this, and it also has links on how to get free books, where to find the plans, and also links for doing book drives and things like that. So, thanks.
Thank you very much. So Melissa, you can see how creative Melissa is and all the outreach work that she does. She's also going to be presenting at the Conservation Lands Workshop, and it'll be sort of a whirlwind tour of lots of different projects that she's worked on.